Imagine waking in the dead of night to furniture moving on its own, objects flying across rooms, voices, deep and guttural, emerging from a child. This isn't a horror film. This is the true story of the Enfield Poltergeist, a terrifying ordeal that gripped an entire nation and still defies rational explanation. Welcome, friends. I am Chester, and tonight's dark tale begins with the chilling account of the Enfield Poltergeist, a haunting that shook the very foundations of belief. Our story begins in the unassuming London borough of Enfield in the autumn of 1977. Here, at 284 Green Street, lived the Hodgson family. Peggy, a single mother, and her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. They were, by all accounts, an ordinary family living an ordinary life until one August evening when the inexplicable began. It started subtly, a series of unexplained noises, shuffling sounds, dragging feet, and then distinct knocking coming from the walls. At first, Peggy dismissed it as the children playing tricks or perhaps a faulty pipe. But the sounds grew louder, more insistent, moving from room to room, often when no one was near. The children, particularly Janet, then just 11 years old, were the first to voice their fear. They reported their beds shaking violently, as if an invisible force was trying to toss them out. Toys would fly across the room, and small objects would mysteriously vanish only to reappear in impossible places. It was a terrifying introduction to something they couldn't comprehend. Peggy, a practical woman, initially tried to find logical explanations. She checked the pipes, examined the floorboards, and even confronted her children, convinced they were responsible. But the phenomena continued, escalating beyond mere pranks. One night, a heavy chest of drawers in Janet's bedroom was reportedly dragged several feet across the floor. Peggy, hearing the commotion, rushed in, only to witness it move on its own, an experience that shattered her skepticism and plunged her into a nightmare she couldn't escape. This was no childish game. Something truly disturbing had invaded their home. The fear became palpable, a constant, chilling presence that permeated every corner of 284 Green Street. The family, once comfortable in their home, now found themselves living in a state of perpetual terror, constantly on edge, wondering what new horror the unseen entity would unleash next. The knocking, the movement, the inexplicable chill in the air. It was just the beginning of a haunting that would soon become legendary. As the days turned into weeks, the poltergeist activity intensified dramatically. What began as unsettling noises quickly transformed into overt, physical manifestations that no longer spared anyone in the household. Beds would visibly shake and levitate. Objects would hurtle through the air with destructive force, and even family members reported being physically pushed or shoved by an unseen hand. It wasn't long before the terrified family sought help, reaching out to neighbors, friends, and eventually, the police. The initial police response was one of skepticism, as one might expect. However, on one particular visit, a female police officer, PC Carolyn Heaps, reportedly witnessed a chair slide across the floor on its own. Her official statement, though carefully worded, confirmed that she could not explain the incident by any natural means, lending crucial early credibility to the Hodgsons' claims. With the local authorities unable to offer a solution, the family turned to the press, and it was through a newspaper article that the case caught the attention of the Society for Psychical Research, SPR. Morris Gross, a seasoned paranormal investigator with the SPR, was the first to arrive, quickly followed by Guy Lyon Playfair, another respected researcher. Their arrival marked a turning point. Unlike many skeptics, Gross and Playfair approached the case with an open mind, meticulously documenting every strange occurrence. They spent countless hours at the house, interviewing the family, setting up recording equipment, and observing the phenomena firsthand. They witnessed objects being thrown, heard the mysterious knocking, and even captured sounds that defied explanation. Their presence, far from deterring the activity, seemed to embolden it, as if the entity reveled in the attention, upping the ante with each passing day. Perhaps the most chilling and iconic aspect of the Enfield Poltergeist case was the emergence of the voices. Initially, the strange sounds were limited to knocking and movement, but soon, a new, terrifying dimension was added. Janet, the 11-year-old daughter, became the primary focus of the entity, or at least, the primary conduit for its communication. It began with whispers, then grunts, and eventually, a deep, guttural male voice started to emanate directly from Janet, often when her mouth was visibly closed. This voice, gruff and aggressive, claimed to be Bill Wilkins, a former resident of the house who had allegedly died in the armchair in the living room. The voice was extensively recorded by Gross and Playfair, with some of the recordings becoming infamous for their unsettling clarity and the chilling content of their pronouncements. Bill spoke of his death, his resentment, and often hurled insults and threats at the investigators and the family. The voice was medically examined, with doctors confirming that it was impossible for Janet to produce such sounds naturally, given her vocal cords and age. The phenomenon baffled experts, further solidifying the mystery surrounding the haunting. Beyond the voice, Janet herself often appeared to be in a trance-like state, displaying remarkable strength and even levitating or being thrown across rooms. Witnesses described her body twisting into unnatural positions, her face contorting, and her demeanor shifting drastically. It was as if she was not merely possessed, but actively tormented by an unseen force, a puppet dancing to a dark master's tune. The sheer intensity and consistency of these manifestations made it incredibly difficult for even the most hardened skeptics to dismiss the events as mere childish pranks or elaborate hoaxes. Despite the compelling accounts from the Hodgson family, the police, and experienced paranormal investigators like Gross and Playfair, the Enfield Poltergeist case was not without its fervent skeptics. And rightly so. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Many psychologists and illusionists argued that the girls, particularly Janet, were likely perpetrating an elaborate hoax, driven by a desire for attention or perhaps even by psychological distress. They pointed to instances where Janet and Margaret were caught bending spoons or throwing objects when they thought no one was watching. These moments, often captured on film or by investigators, were seized upon by critics as definitive proof of deception. Magicians like Bob Cowdy conducted their own investigations, attempting to replicate the phenomena using trickery, and claimed they could achieve similar results. Yet the sheer volume and variety of the phenomena presented a formidable challenge to the hoax theory. How could children, even resourceful ones, explain the police officer's testimony, the sustained deep voice that medical professionals deemed impossible, the numerous independent witnesses who saw objects move, or the consistent nature of the poltergeist activity over a period of many months? The photographic evidence, including pictures of Janet purportedly levitating, though often debated, added another layer of complexity. The investigators, Gross and Playfair, were well aware of the possibility of trickery and implemented various measures to catch any deception, but much of the activity continued even under close scrutiny. They also noted the genuine terror and distress of the family, particularly Peggy Hodgson, who had no apparent motive for such a prolonged and traumatic deception. The truth, if there ever was one, seemed to lie in a murky gray area, where undeniable strange occurrences clashed with moments of apparent trickery, leaving the world to wonder what was truly happening behind those doors. The relentless activity of the Enfield Poltergeist took an unimaginable toll on the Hodgson family, transforming their once normal home into a living nightmare. Peggy, the matriarch, found herself in an impossible situation, struggling to protect her children from an invisible assailant, all while battling public skepticism and the overwhelming fear that permeated their lives. The children, especially Janet, suffered immensely. She was subjected to constant scrutiny, both from the entity and from the media, who descended upon their house like vultures. School became difficult, friendships strained, and the constant stress manifested in various physical and psychological ways. Sleep, A basic human need became a luxury they could rarely afford, as the poltergeist often chose the dead of night to unleash its most terrifying acts. The emotional and mental exhaustion was palpable. Imagine living in a state of perpetual fear, never knowing when a toy might fly across the room, or when an unseen hand might push you down the stairs. The family became isolated, their lives revolving around the paranormal activity, desperate for a return to normalcy that seemed increasingly out of reach. Eventually, after more than a year of intense activity, the phenomena began to wane, slowly receding as mysteriously as they had begun. There was no dramatic climax, no grand farewell from Bill Wilkins. It simply faded, leaving behind a bewildered family and a legacy of unanswered questions. The Hodgson family eventually moved out of the house, seeking peace elsewhere, but the scars of their ordeal undoubtedly remained, a permanent reminder of the terror they endured. Decades have passed since the events at 284 Green Street, yet the Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most hotly debated and iconic paranormal cases in history. Its legacy extends far beyond the confines of a single council house in London, influencing popular culture through books, documentaries, and even major motion pictures like The Conjuring 2. But beyond the sensationalism, the case continues to challenge our understanding of the unknown. Was it truly a malevolent spirit, a mischievous entity, or perhaps a unique manifestation of a young girl's subconscious energy? The very concept of a poltergeist, often translated as noisy ghost, suggests a phenomenon tied more to living individuals, particularly adolescents, than to traditional apparitions. This theory, known as recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, posits that intense emotional or psychological stress can unconsciously trigger psychokinetic events. Could Janet Hodgson have been the unwitting source of the phenomena, channeling her adolescent turmoil into destructive energy? Or was it, as many still believe, the genuine manifestation of a powerful and malevolent entity? The evidence remains a perplexing mix of compelling eyewitness accounts, recorded voices, strange photographs, and inconvenient instances of apparent trickery. For every piece of evidence supporting a paranormal explanation, skeptics offer a rational, albeit sometimes stretched, alternative. What cannot be denied, however, is the profound impact the events had on the Hodgson family and the enduring fascination it holds for those who seek answers in the shadows. The Enfield Poltergeist stands as a testament to the enduring human quest to understand the boundaries of our reality, a chilling reminder that some mysteries, perhaps, are destined to remain unsolved. The story of the Enfield Poltergeist is a haunting reminder that some things simply defy explanation. But what do you believe? Was it a genuine haunting, an elaborate hoax, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this chilling tale captivated you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true stories from the edge of the unknown. Your support helps us continue